Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Can It Take a K26? The show where we take a variety of blasters and see if they can be upgraded using a K26 spring. I am your host, Captain Xavier, and today we're going to be covering some Busby shell blasters. That is, blasters that use the Busby shells that are ejectable or can be put in a magazine or what have you. Our first contestant is the Torrent. The Busby Torrent is, as it would appear, a front pump revolver that takes and ejects shells, which is the really neat feature. When you prime it, it chambers and then you can fire it, and then if you prime it again, you can eject the shell. Now, you don't have to. You can, in fact, prime the blaster without ejecting the shell, just by not pushing it all the way forward. If you the priming handle stops about here normally, but if you go that little extra bit, then it will eject the shell. And now, if you don't want to do that because you don't want to be, leaving your shells all over the place because you can't load the blaster without them, you can obviously choose not to. Now, if you want to know the full history and all of that of this particular blaster, WalcomS7 has covered it over on his channel during Tag Back, and you should take a look at that. But what we want to know is, can it take a K26? So, let's find out. I've already started taking it apart. Well, the first thing that I see that is good, and another thing I see that is bad. The good thing is that it uses a lever to force back the priming rod, which means you're getting a lot more mechanical advantage, which is good when you're trying to increase the spring load. The downside is that it is still offset, and while it is a fairly thick priming rod, any flex on the priming rod is going to make it difficult to actually catch K26. But let's take this out and take a peek. It does have the fairly usual, very robust Busby catch that we see in things like the Sentinel, that generally allow it to take a very heavy spring load. So that's good. Unfortunately, the plunger tube is too small, which is a shame because there's so much room back here. They could have put in a much bigger, a much heavier one, but they chose not to. But let's see what we might be able to put in there. What kind of compression are we looking at? Oh, we're looking at almost complete compression on that wimpy little spring. That's not good. That does not speak well of possibilities. That one might actually work if we took the top and bottom rings off. It's really easy to replace the spring though, so that's good. Yeah, we need a little bit more compression, so yes, but I'm not happy about it. I got him in shot. That's what I get for leaving bubble wrapping around. Alright, so we got that heavier spring in there. Question now is whether or not the priming system will be able to prime that heavier spring. And I'm dubious, but I'm certainly willing to give it a try. So the blaster is actually capable of telling whether the shell that's about to be ejected is empty or not. This little tab will disengage the ejection system. So if you haven't fired the dart, it won't eject a full shell, which is good because they won't fit out of the ejection port. And that way you can just cycle back through until you get to that round again and fire it. So that's interestingly complex. Alright, well that was no to K26, but yes to a fairly sizable spring upgrade. I'm not sure entirely what it is. My guess is that it was a Tech 6 spring, given the size and the fact that it was in this bin. So if you have one of these and you happen to want to upgrade it, that actually was a fairly sizable upgrade. So, yeah. On to the next contestant. Our next contestant is the Mustang 6. This was another one that Walcom recently reviewed in Tag Back. In fact, I believe it was this very one, because he lent it to me recently. And it is also a shell blaster, which is fascinating. The shells feed in just like they would in an actual revolver. Though it's on the left side, which I believe is unusual. At least it's on the right side on my revolver. But yeah, it takes 6 shells, they go right in, and then you crank this and fire it. And then to eject the shells, there's a button on this side that just releases the shells. Which is pretty darn nifty, if you ask me. Again, check out Walcom's channel for the full history and a full review. We just want to know if this thing can take a K26, and I'm nervous because this is a very rare blaster, and I really don't want to break it, so we are going to be careful. Alright, now unfortunately, the barrel cap is glued on. I think Walcom might have actually re-glued it on, looking at the screws. So we are going to have to go in the hard way. Oh, good. It is possible to get the plunger assembly out without disassembling the blaster, or having to remove any screws, so that's handy. So, no surprises here. K26 is larger than the plunger tube. Not a very big plunger tube. But that is actually an impressive spring. It helps that you have leverage in priming it, so they can get away with a heavier spring. And I doubt I'm going to have anything that's going to be as beefy as that for the size. And like I said, I am very loath to break this blaster, so no for K26, and possibly for spring upgrade if you had the right one, but you'd have to be willing to do it, and I'm not. I'm missing out on this one. Okay, now for the hard part. Moment of truth. Did I break it? Yes. Yes, I did. Okay. Let's figure out what I did wrong. Alright, well that was no for a K26 and no to a spring upgrade. The spring in it is actually pretty beefy, and I didn't want to tear it apart any further for fear that I might damage it, and then Walcom would probably understand since he was willing to lend it to me. He had to understand the risks, but the curator would probably murder us both. Murder. Alright, let's recap. Alright, for those of you just tuning in or who just skipped to the end to see the results, that was a no for the Busby Torrent, but yes to a spring upgrade, and that was a no to the Mustang 6, and a no to a spring upgrade. Both of these, I think, are really neat. The whole idea of blasters that take shells is a really, I think, fun gimmick, especially if you're doing any kind of cosplay, because you can paint the shells, you know, brass, and then you can put them in holders, and they eject, and all of that. Now, functionally obvious, that's kind of a less functional idea because you have to deal with shells that have to be reloaded if you lose the shells and the blaster doesn't function anymore. But as neat gimmicks go, I'm kind of a fan of that one. So there you have it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, requests for future episodes, I've got a couple more episodes lined up, but some of them, like I said, I need good weather so I can actually take them out and test them. Because I actually want to know what kind of a performance increase it does or does not have. So I've got a few more rainy weather ones, and since I live in the Pacific Northwest, it's pretty much always rainy. Yeah, should get some good ones in the future. So if you have any ideas for ones I haven't done yet, go ahead and suggest them, and I'll look into acquiring them. And thank you for watching.